When we speak of Jesus Christ, we are not merely invoking a name that resonates in churches. We are speaking of a figure whose life and influence stretch far beyond the pages of scriptures. To some, the Bible alone doesn't seem like enough evidence. They question its credibility and search for additional historical references beyond just Josephus. This question is not only fair, but it is also necessary. After all, truth, if it is true, must stand the test of investigation. So today, we will look at what ancient historians, many of whom were not followers of Jesus, had to say about him. We will explore Roman records, Jewish records, and other non-Christian sources, and we will find whether historical Jesus aligns with the Jesus of the Gospels. Let's begin with Tacitus, the Roman historian. Modern-day scholar and historian Professor Edwin Yamoshi called Tacitus the most important reference to Jesus Christ outside of the New Testament. Now, it's crucial to note that Tacitus had no love for Christians. In fact, he refers to Christianity as a mischievous superstition in his book Annals, written around AD 116. While recounting how Emperor Nero blamed Christians for the fire that consumed Rome, Tacitus writes, Nero fastened the guilt on a class hated for the abominations called Christians. Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of Pontius Pilate. Why is this so significant? First, Tacitus confirms that Christians took their name from a real historical figure, Christus or Christ. Second, he specifies that Christ was crucified under Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius Caesar. These are details that directly align with the Gospel accounts. But here is what is crucial. This is coming from a Roman historian, not a Christian. Even the Greek satirist Lucian of Samosata, writing in the 2nd century, gives us insight into the early Christians and their devotion to Jesus. In one of his satirical works, Lucian pokes fun at Christians, saying, "These Christians worship a man to this day, the distinguished personage who introduced their novel rites and was crucified on that account." Lucian's mocking tone can't hide the fact that early Christians were devoted to the worship of Jesus, a man they believed to be far more than just a teacher. One of the most fascinating sources comes from the Jewish historian Josephus, writing in the late 1st century AD. Josephus was no friend to the Christian movement, yet he mentions Jesus twice in his work, Jewish Antiquities. In one passage, he refers to the condemnation of James, describing him as the brother of Jesus, the so-called Christ. This aligns with the New Testament description of James as a leader in the early church. Interestingly, even in Jewish rabbinical writings, we find mention of Jesus. The Babylon Talmud, a collection of Jewish oral traditions compiled between AD 70 and 500, contains a reference to Jesus in a rather hostile tone. It states, on the eve of Passover, Yeshua was hanged for sorcery and leading Israel astray. The term hanged here is a synonym for crucifixion, a detail consistent with the Gospels. Next we turn to Pliny the Younger, a Roman governor of Bithynia, writing to Emperor Trajan around AD 112. Pliny's letters reveal his perplexity over how to deal with the growing number of Christians in his province. He writes that Christians were accused of many things, yet when he interrogated them, this is what he found. They were accustomed to meet on a fixed day before dawn and sing hymns to Christ as to a god, and bind themselves by oath not to do any crime, commit fraud, theft or adultery. This brief description is profound. First, Christians meet regularly to worship Jesus as God. They didn't see Jesus just as a wise teacher or a prophet. They worshipped him, an act that was so radical in a polytheistic Roman world. So, what can we conclude? From Tacitus, we learn that Christ was crucified under Pontius Pilate. From Pliny the Younger, we see that Christians worship Jesus as God. From Josephus, we receive confirmation that Jesus was a wise teacher who was crucified under Roman authority. The Jewish Talmud and Lucian both affirms that Jesus' impact was so profound that even his enemies couldn't ignore him. What is amazing is that these non-Christian sources, coming from such diverse backgrounds, all point to the same reality. Jesus Christ is an historical person.